Good evening and welcome to an electric skateboard party election broadcast brought to you by Esk8 James, myself, Minty, and Suki, the silent party in the corner. So, James, what policies have you got for a happier, safer, more electric skateboardy Britain?
Step one, we legalise e-scooters. 8 years have passed, enough time has passed, get it done. Ireland recently legalised e-scooters, which is amazing. 12 miles an hour, 400 watt limits. Unfortunately, 500 watts and 15 miles per hour would have made more sense. Conveniently, they also legalised e-scooters, sorry, e-bikes, for the first time using the standard 250 watt, 15 miles per hour limit. As you can imagine, people are very happy about that. How did it take them so long to get e-bikes?
And did it get them so long?
E-scooters first.
But we'd be recommending that without all those speed limit nonsense, wouldn't we?
Yes, indeed.
And right. we would be campaigning on a stronger platform for. I think there should be things like, you know, like a free coffee if you turn up on an electric skateboard at every coffee shop. You know, something like that. Free charging at every cafe and restaurant. How about that?
Indeed, Minty. In fact, some places offer you 50 pence for every mile that you travel to work using bicycles, which will be fantastic. Although for those of us with electric skateboards, we will probably take a very long route there.
That would do it, wouldn't it? That would do it. Oh yes, e-skate. I have been on work trips on my electric skateboard previously, and I must admit it did bring somebody to just absolutely complete laughter, because they'd never seen an electric skateboard before. And when I was following them going over the speed bumps and they were in the car, they were like, what is going on?
Minty, you raised an excellent point. There should be subsidies for things like belts. As you know, these are perishables and they need to be replenished every now and then. It's important to keep these vehicles safe, and this is what we should do. Perhaps indeed we could also give people discounts for the quieter hub motors, more considerate noise pollution, very important issue right now at these election times, all these revving engines and gear drives.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Although, interestingly, have you noticed that apparently they say that the amount of electric cars involved in pedestrian collisions is up because people aren't hearing them? Hey, Jan. So I'm not sure that the belts and gears aren't doing their job by letting the people know that we're there. But yes, you've got to be careful. You can always have one of your little bells on your finger, like you've got the ding ding. Lovely jubbly.
What other issues would you say are affecting the electric skateboard community that should be assessed and approved and subsidied?
Right, I think we should really settle down to the serious issues. We should ban rain for at least 9 months of the year. Absolutely. Because that's. I mean, I know James Matthews won't agree because he's out in the hills with his tramper bashing the mud and everything like that. But for the rest of it, I think if we could just ban or just cover some streets, have a covered area in every town, so you can scratch that electric skateboard itch, even when it's absolutely hosing it down.
It's important to resurface this transport infrastructure, most of which is cycle lanes that e-scooters and electric skateboards are destined to use. Couldn't agree more. Far too many potholes on these main roads. Leave it to the cars to enjoy those.
Sounds good. Oh, well, make sure if you've got any sensible policies for a happier Britain, please put them in the chat below, and we can see what we can do. We'll be canvassing in an area near you shortly.
That was an excellent discussion. Thank you.
That was an excellent discussion. And so back to the regular programme. So Esk8 James, how are you? It's been a wee while. You've been wandering in the wilderness, finding yourself. You must have some fabulous stories to tell us.
Honestly, there's been so much going on that it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like I crashed, but then suddenly I've just kind of ramped up into everything, and health has never been better, which is fantastic. Even I'm astonished at how good I feel. A sense of clarity, my sense of focus, and yes, I've driven my electric skateboards quite a fair bit. Broke some discontinued hub motors at last, so I'm finally freed from the shackles of these bullet connectors, and now I can get proper, hub motors that can fit modern wheels, not just standard 90mm ones glued to the magnets like the old Meepo V2. What else? I got a new skateboard after 70 days of waiting.
70 days of, go and remind everybody what one you got, because it was a tiny, wasn't it? Was it SL?
Right, yes. I bought my first tiny board. It was a tiny Mini Free SL Student Life.
Yeah.
It was designed to be the most affordable one with the biggest kind of battery of its size, like 7 amp hours, 8 amp hours, something like that. But they seem to have deliberately engineered it to have weak brakes. Although I think if I stuck to the 90mm wheels, that wouldn't be an issue. And even though you can turn it up to 900%, it still felt really weak for me. Hill climb isn't as fast, so it's more designed for gradual top speed. Apparently, it does 30 to 28 miles an hour. We'll see. But the main thing is, it just felt really tame. And I thought, well, they've deliberately designed it for the first-time rider. So basically, if you're getting a skateboard for the first time and you're doing whiskey throttle nonsense, it won't throw you as much. So it's kind of smart, but also for an experienced rider, I'm like, where's my power?
Right, and I've got the absolute solution for you. When we catch up, I'm going to give you a shot on my tiny Mini 3 Pro. And if it doesn't scare the crap out of you, because nothing that small should go that fast.
And that's the thing, it is actually a very small skateboard. It's 28 inches, and for most people, they're like, that's tiny. But the thing is, it's got a significant wheelbase of about 20-inch wheelbase, which is great. Or like, anything less than that, it just feels extremely sketchy. I changed my short boards that were a Meepo Ripple and a Meepo Mini Dual. And I changed it from 16 inches to 20-inch wheelbase, and it made such a difference. Like, I couldn't drive the thing in a straight line without wobbling all over the place, and now it's just smooth as hell on a bump track. So, and yeah, it was right. The Meepo Ripple really does have the most powerful 75mm hub motors of its size class. Usually, you have to have 90mm motors to have any power.
Right. So,
and I put a cargo box on
overall, I guess. Do you think that added something new to your bow, to your quiver of boards, or do you feel like it wasn't enough of a shift? Is there something missing in your boards that you think you really need to still add to your range?
Well, as always, it's always great to have a fantastic, huge battery, but that battery, bigger the battery, the bigger the cost. Maybe one day I'll get one of those, but there's one that the X8 Paragon with its swappable Tupperware battery. To me, if it's got a swappable battery, fantastic. But it's way out of my price range. Plus, I'm waiting for them to introduce an alleged gear drive version. No belts to snap, no. But maybe there'll be a hub motor version. Who knows? Yeah,
it is. Gear drive is definitely taking off. So many different organizations doing the gear drives now. Propel's just released one. Omni's is really popular. There's lots of mainstream ones, isn't there? So.
I mean, you can tell straight away that the industry has adopted gear drive significantly faster than direct drive. And in fact, one of the original direct drive companies, Revel, their website's down. So Revel are gone, basically. They're boosted. And it's a shame, because if any ESC breaks or any motor breaks, what can you do to keep it going? Not many of them around.
That's true. And I guess I was going to say, it seems to be you're possibly because I guess a lot of the boards you've got are hub boards and old, so a range of different older and cheaper brands. You seem to be able to spot the brands that have gone out of business before I hear about it some of the time. So maybe that should be another list for you, a little graveyard list of.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
born then, died then.
One of the things that I've been trying to solve lately is it appears to be a long-term issue with the hub motors and their axle. and how it rattles around inside the axle-less trucks on the rear. And eventually that clearance becomes bigger and bigger, and then you'll feel the hub motor moving. And I feel like there must be some kind of shim or like a little metal spacer I can put in there to clamp it down so the axle doesn't wobble as much. But I haven't quite figured out the right size to use.
Well, I would just say be really careful with that stuff, because if someone gets in there and gets caught, it could be a catastrophic failure.
But I mean, basically, the hub motor axle is being clamped between some bolts in the truck, and it's just a tiny little clearance that's making it wiggle. Yeah. And it's like, I can fix it with really thick foam, but it only lasts for maybe 2-4 miles, and that's it. So
yeah, that sounds great.
But it's like, what we use, and it's something that no one really tries to fix. It's a long-term issue with hub motors.
Yeah, so that might be a challenge. We should write to some of the hub motor manufacturers and say, how can you engineer something that you can fit in at different stages?
Like you said, the metal on metal vibrates, and bit by bit it wears away. And it seems easy. I mean, I've got a theory.
It seems to be like a tiny thin shim. Just yeah.
It feels like a metal roller might work. It might be thin enough, but I just need to test it out.
All right. Okay. Any other? What other news? What other stuff's kind of passed in front of you that you think, ooh, that's been quite an interesting story?
Okay. Well, off to the first link, Suki. This is there's a US-based Electric Pioneers documentary from Patrick Phillips, I believe.
Oh yes.
That came out last year, and I really wanted to see it, but unfortunately, I think it's Tubi. They don't really broadcast their videos to the UK. But recently, it's came onto Amazon UK, or Amazon Prime Video, if you want to call it that. And it's just a really good 2-part documentary about electric skateboards, from their journey into it, and also the other side of it, which is kind of the mental health support and just almost a surreal sense of community that just doesn't exist elsewhere. I can't recommend it enough. Each episode is like £2 to buy, so it's like, really affordable. And how often do we see any documentaries about electric skateboards?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess I guess interestingly, like the what was it, 808, 818, whatever the Iceland one was, that one eventually made it onto YouTube and stuff like that, and I guess lots of people then got to see it. So maybe it'll get beyond that, but like you say, it's good to support them. And I guess that.
Sorry, I believe he's won some awards for this as well.
That's what I was just going to say. There's like about half a dozen awards he's won. So again, so there's good to see that recognition, isn't it?
I can't recommend these enough. And honestly, I would love to see another episode. I was saying to him, what about maybe the people that are the hot rodders, the DIY scene that are hacking one wheels and showing them that you can fix this stuff when the companies go boosted? Because it happens quite often that the companies don't last more than 2-3 years. And then what do we do? It's like, show us how to fix these things. And
yeah, well, that's it. We could maybe have a specific episode per, like a quick thing per brand. Like a LaCroix one, or you know what I mean. So you could have one cheaper end one and one higher end one.
Yeah, I also said to him, wouldn't it be cool if you could kind of recreate the Discovery Channel, how it's made videos? Because that'd be really fun for electric skateboards, because our versions, if one exists, is probably way outdated.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, for sure. And again, sort of public information videos like that are, if you get something that's watchable, it doesn't just seem like it's a niche, I guess, is some of the stuff that's out there, then we're going to extend it to people who wouldn't normally have an interest, and it's going to appear in their feed and they'll go, give that a go.
It goes hand in hand, the fact that people act like this is a new technology, but it's been around for 10, 20, 30, even longer years, and it's like, we'd love to demystify this thing. We'd love to talk about the benefits of it. Other countries, like you say, have legalized e-skateboards years ago. And it's like, we can't figure out e-scooters, but Ireland has finally just done that. So there has to be more of a discussion about legalization, and also just, I don't know, make the technology more accessible.
Yeah, I still argue that we should change the format of legalization. I think that rather than each new technology requiring a change in the law, because that's just so slow, because technology is moving so fast, it should just be the same rules for everybody. Don't ride like a dick.
Language.
And it's legal. It's legal. But, and that's it.
Yeah, even the motorcycle industry, they are furious that their crash stats get thrown in with e-scooters, because e-scooters get classified as motorcycles because they're not pedal assisted, and they've said time and time again it's a distinct category, separate from motorcycles, and that affects their insurance premiums, so they want to keep it separate.
Yeah, that's it. So I think I just, that's what I mean. Anyway, that's a whole other debate for our campaign trail next time, maybe.
Yeah. Onto the second link, which is the cloud wheel one. There's two different ones, but they both, basically there's a new wheel on the way. We like new wheels when it happens.
New wheels, I know.
Even better, these ones they have a hub motor version, so I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So these are the different diameter ones, aren't they?
This is right. So it's a bit confusing the way they've labelled these. The FE one is essentially the smaller size. I don't know what the F stands for, Formula Endurance, but basically they've changed it from a concaved contact patch, which doesn't have much grip and tends to slide, but it feels more carvy if you've got larger wheels. However, they've changed it to a flat contact patch, so there's less sliding when they get wet, because I presume these are the kind of don't ride when wet contact compound. But the other one, which is called the SE, I think that's the softer endurance, because that's the larger 120mm size. And we haven't seen 120mm wheels for a long time. It's possible that there's loads of reviews about these now on YouTube, which I need to watch. But yeah, it's great to see, especially because this one claims to be a competitor to the Galaxy Pro ones. Galaxy Pro, for people don't know, is like a sort of mid-ground between rubber compound and urethane, and has the tread patterns for waterproofs.
And I guess it's always interesting to just check whether or not I haven't noticed whether or not the cores for them have changed in any way, because obviously they have changed them over the years, because originally there was some failures, quite a lot of failures. They changed the core design. I still think some people aren't huge fans of how durable they are, and other people say they last for donkeys, for hundreds and hundreds of miles. But
another thing to point out is they've gone for sort of like a colourful, clear wheel design. There was a trend where they wanted to show off the foam cores of these wheels, then they didn't. I'm on the mind that it gets muddy anyway, so it's not going to look pretty for very long. But it's cool to go, yeah, there's foam inside these wheels. Look at it.
It's going all the way back to Slick Revolution days, when obviously Slick Revolution invented them, according to Slick Revolution. Foamies were designed in England, apparently.
But yeah, I mean, like for me, I'm always like fascinated by any new hub motor wheel sleeve. So far as I can tell, it felt like the Galaxy Pro ones were 74A, and that's comparing to Meepo's 72A 105 Cyclone wheels. So they're kind of like a knockoff Mad wheels, the original boosted wheels. But basically, they feel like they're really soft for hub motors, but not quite really soft, if you get what I'm saying. They still haven't figured it out.
Yes. Well, choice is good. Choice is good.
Absolutely. So moving on to the WowGo link, Suki. There's always a new model coming, and this one is a light-up one with love lights.
Oh, yes.
And conveniently, apparently, the pre-orders go live in 2 days, of all things. This is the WowGo X5. It's a belt-driven model. Obviously, there's not many specs because it hasn't gone live. But it's got orange LED deck lights.
Orange. You see, I don't think there's enough orange. I think There's a lot of purples and blues, but I quite like an orange
And the
personally.
thing is, going back to Boosted, their cancelled concepts, they were going to do a light up orange skateboard. So really, this is sort of like the purest, what could have been of that, if you want to look at it that way. There was also at one point going to be a two-tone wheel design, so it'd be like, I guess, I don't know, orange on the outside but black on the inside, kind of two-tone wheels.
Yeah. Well, that's again that's another quite a bold look, isn't it? So, I mean, I guess I'm not sure how. I haven't heard that so much about Wowgo lately. You know what I mean? They're not really mixing it up. Is there anything else about the Pioneer that stands out, or is it just the lighty upness?
Well, that's the thing. I guess we'll find out in 2 days' time when I guess the pre-order link will go live and their website specs. We like specs. We like details. I want to know how big this battery is. I want to know its top speed. I want to know, does it do anything different? Where's my swappable batteries? There's not many of those around.
Yeah. No, that'll do nicely. Yes, 'tis the season for more stuff. And interestingly, on that link, that it also had it had Black Friday deals, and I thought, bloody hell, we're not there again, are we?
No. It's the perpetual sales. They aren't actually sales, just the standard price.
Indeed.
This is another thing we need to put on the agenda. This false advertising of prices needs to end.
Yes, there we go. Yes, savings. Yes, it's a bit like, what we should have. I don't know whether other sites have it, but like Amazon seems to have got it on now, so that it's when they offer it at any horns or controllers. Oh well, there we go.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We still haven't figured out how to put horns back in the skateboard remotes, even though they existed and they had little trigger buttons inside the finger loop. So the technology already is there, but putting it into a Hobbywing ESC.
Oh yes. On makes more sense. Yeah, and yes, yeah. No, and James has got that. So that finger, actually having it as part of the remote rather than an add-on.
Button. I've got two of those. One of them is called the Finger Dinger, which is like a brass bell with a concave to fit around your finger and not rotate when you use it. That's quite polite, quite dignified, walking around with a giant kind of brass bell ring. Very
brass knuckle.
Yeah. And then the other one is was called a PID Zoom. PID Zoom, they do these wireless horns. So you've got a little finger buzzer like those that you shake someone's hand with, and that button is attached to a wireless arm, and it's 120 decibels loud, very loud, rechargeable. But the funny thing is, it also has a built-in disc lock. So if it's shaken when it's locked, it'll do like a car alarm sound, which is very funny, but probably useful for people that leave their skateboard and walk away.
Right, and so you've never accidentally locked it and then been making a racket as you're riding down the road, have you?
No, I don't use it as much as I should, but I haven't really been riding at times when it's chaotically busy, so I don't necessarily bring the bell. But it's useful to know those things exist. I think they were originally designed for electric unicycle riders, anyway.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on that technology. What else has been on the go?
Moving on from that, we don't often get a lot of skateboard art, like proper comics and stuff. And Linky, Link Suki, get it, Linky? Well, so Linky is a really interesting.
So these are the adverts that they're in the form of like a little comic book.
Now I am a bit confused. So far, there's like 3 or 4 episodes of this, but I'm a bit skeptical. Like, is it a real comic? Is it an AI comic? But it's still a comic about electric skateboards.
It's an advert. It's an advert in the shape of a comic, isn't it? Really, it is.
I think it's been done tastefully, and being a comic book fan, it's quite nice to see different types of advertising rather than the usual YouTube tutorial and review.
Yes.
But yeah, it's that thing of, is this AI art? Is this real art? Who's the original artist? And I'm just quite fascinated by it. Blinky, for those who don't know, they made this very strange folding skateboard like 3-4 years ago, and now they've actually came back and improved their design. They did a very successful Kickstarter campaign, and they got a lot of money to put all this into practice. So you'll be seeing those in the coming months, I'd imagine. But yeah, it's just like a different format that we wouldn't normally see, I think, to advertise these.
So that you're raising an interesting point about the AI. I mean, although AI is bad for a lot of creative stuff, you know, for people who are trying to create things, I suppose, is there a possibility of you know, getting AI to make a funky sort of like electric skateboard? Come on now, you know, electric skateboard comic, and see what it comes up with.
Honestly,
we should task somebody to it.
There are some very dodgy AI concept arts for electric skateboards with like the weirdest.
Yeah, I've seen some of yeah.
You don't leave that program in charge of building a skateboard, please.
No, just not in charge of building a skateboard, but in charge of building if we're saying like a maybe even a short cartoon video. You know, what could it come up with? Because obviously, but making a cartoon is hugely labor intensive, right? So if you can combine a bit of AI with a concept, I wonder if it could produce something that's passable that you would actually want to watch.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should mention that, because there is a movement to use AI in active editing as it's watching a video. So there's one where someone's just driving down a street and it edits it to make it look like you're driving through kind of smoky cyberpunk cities with neon lights and burning cars in the background and stuff. And it's possible some might do it that way, but it's one of those things where it's like hire an actual person to do it for you.
Yes, no, that's interesting, isn't it?
Go back to skateboard stickers.
Back to skateboard stickers, indeed.
Nobody puts stickers on their skateboards anymore, and there's some damn good ones. I found one that's like a blue Nintendo Power Glove.
Oh, yes.
And it's like you can make your own stickers using labels.
Was that the one that's got a mouth in it?
Yeah. It's I'm trying to remember what the name of the company is, but it's just the most amazing stickers, and it's like, why don't we really do stickers in the electric skateboard industry? Well,
that's it. That'll be a retro trend. You can start it. You could share some pictures of stickers on boards and stuff. That's why you need to keep buying boards to get some real estate for your stickers.
Absolutely. Do it for the stickers. But yeah, I mean, like even just adding a bit of color to these skateboards, it's like, it's just got one red pinstripe, and it's like, come on, put more, I don't know, pop style into it, because some of these designs can blur into each other, I think, after a time.
Yeah, no, that's it. But something that's a bit different, a bit funky. Yeah, for sure.
All right then. So on to one of our last things, which ironically rounds it off with the political theme and the comedy sketch we've been doing. Voix Technology has put together a series of questions for UK citizens to ask their parliamentary candidates, so they prioritise e-scooting and cycling ahead of the general election on the 4th of July, Independence Day. So yes. It's quite good to see this. It's like the e-scooter companies are fed up just as much as we are, and they want to use these, they want to sell these, they want to promote these, and they're like, we're just bashing our head against the wall here after 8 years. And meanwhile, Ireland sorted it out.
Oh yeah, so Jan's asking about the stickers. So I think you've put a post of one of the stickers, haven't you? Here's Suki's maybe on it. No, that's Suki's. That was a link to the legislation post, but that's helpful.
I'll find it. So yeah, it was sort of like a limited edition sticker that I found, but I've got it on my Twitter page. I'll put the link in, and then you can see it. And yeah, like I say, you can take this image, you can put it in a Word document, and you can print your own stickers using label paper, which is basically printer paper, but it's a sticker. Wonderful stuff. So you can make your own stickers, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller. and it's one of the coolest ones I've ever seen. And unfortunately, some of these stickers are quite limited edition, and you feel bad like buying them for silly prices when you could make your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one you were looking at.
And
Yes.
I've got a story about that board as well. That's where the tiny Mini 3SL ended up.
Right. Okay. Cool.
But, I'll just mention that board while we're here.
Yes.
So that was my first electric skateboard. 6-7 years ago, I got a unique Ego 2, and it did the blistering speed of 12 miles per hour. It had one hub motor. Sorry, it had one belt-driven motor, not two, one. And now this board is back in action. I've done a bit of paint on it. I've done some stickers on it, and I've just kind of made it more alive. I haven't had a chance to properly use it, but it feels at home now.
But you just said that was a belt.
Yes, my first electric skateboard was belt driven. I know.
Yes. There we are. You see, but single belt, not so good, because if one belt does go, then that's your only belt, isn't it? Really?
Exactly. But I mean, it was the point where I never snapped a belt. But what I did do is I burnt out the motor, and there was smoke coming off it and everything. Bear in mind, it was only designed to do 12 miles per hour, so nothing like our outrunner motors today that do 40.
No.
And but it had a huge 8 amp hour battery, so it really it was the range beast for me. Went everywhere on it, and that was my gateway drug into electric skateboards. But it was a two-tone skateboard deck, so it had the style, and it's nice to have this friend back.
Yes, and I suppose at 12 miles an hour, you could always jump off if it all went Pete Tong.
But definitely appreciate having dual motor brakes.
Yeah, I would say so. So have you got anything else for us?
Yeah, we'll just pop back to that article.
That article, yes, the article about the questions for the politicians and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
While she's bringing it up, do you go and just talk us through?
Okay, well, basically, like I said, the companies themselves are fed up that, like, everywhere else is making the effort to sort this situation out and separate them from motorcycles, which benefits the motorcycle industry, which benefits the micro-mobility, PLEV, portable light electric vehicle industry. And it's, you know, I think they're getting fed up as much as anyone else, and they might just take their money elsewhere.
Well, that's a good point, isn't it? Because it stifles innovation. What's the point of innovating if you're going to be demonized? If your products aren't going to legally be available to be sold, and it feels a bit like the only people who are using them are then classed as, oh well, they're dodgy, and therefore the whole mode of transport is dodgy. You know what I mean? And it's interesting how perceptions shift, because when I grew up, motorcycles were for hooligans. They were not. They were seen as things that were just for lawless, you know, just speed freaks. And you fast forward now, and I've been a biker all the way through this, and now biking's seen as a kind of, a lot of the time, as a cool but middle class, acceptable, middle-aged thing, because a lot of people have more money to spend on them and buy nice bikes and don't necessarily even ride them that much, but just want to be a biker rather than the experience of riding them.
Important issue for the Esk8 party, or should I say the micro-mobility party, that basically our transport needs a changing. You know, we don't, and like, not everyone can fit a full-sized bicycle into a taxi when you've got a puncture and you're stranded, even though some other countries have bike racks on taxis by law, which should be great. But yeah, like e-scooters, skateboards, we can put these in the boots of taxis and we can still get around even when we're stranded and out of battery. And it's those kind of things that you make them so appealing, the micro mobility.
And when we've actually gone backwards on some of that stuff, because I don't know about the trains in England, but the trains in Scotland recently have actually banned electric scooters and skateboards because of fears of fires. However, they'll still let e-bikes on. They'll still let other types of mobility equipment that've got batteries, the same using the same technology.
And
So there's no logic to it. There's no logic to it. It's just an easy target.
Yeah, in terms of actual fire statistics, your phone, your e-cig is more likely to set on fire in your pocket than an electric skateboard or electric bike or electric scooter, considering you're not using one of those silly fast chargers or a DIY battery that you've built yourself. The genuine manufactured ones are built to a safer standard, and it's such a rarity to see any fires with these. They do happen, but like anything, that's inevitable. And yeah, it's just strange that we're not allowed to bring them on buses or bring them on trains. And what can I say? I mean, really, these things are the best friend of taxi drivers because they can help us out when we're stranded.
Well, that's it. Unless of course you're in Glasgow, and then you get shouted at by grumpy old taxi drivers. I was riding through Glasgow, and this old in Glasgow is riding through the streets, and this old guy taxi driver pulls up beside me, and he's like shaking his hand, and he's like, "You should know better." I said, "Then what? What am I doing? How's this bothering you?" "Well, it just is."
Yeah.
And I says, "Well, it's probably because I'm doing him out of business."
Well, it's not just that; it's the fact that like there's so much propaganda about people that use these things. It's like, oh, well, teenage hooligans. No, sir, I am a grown man, and I've got
no. It's been a while since I've been a teenage hooligan.
It's like, you know, and this perception of what a skater looks like. It's like I've got people in their 70s and 60s that are still skating. You know, I'm a spring chicken compared to these very old skateboarders. And
yes, a moving demographic, isn't it?
I mean, like the reality is everybody's still going to be using these e-scooters and e-bikes and e-skateboards in decades to come, and they're not going anywhere. The technology is out of the bag, and it's effective. So you have to encourage that industry, or it'll just remain a Wild West.
Indeed.
It's like, but once again, like I say, it all comes down to riding with all due care and consideration. I'm not maxing out the top speed on this on a main road. I'm just pop into the shops, pop into my friends, pop into my families, and it's a great way of getting around.
It is, absolutely. So I guess there was one other thing that pops into my head that I'm not sure that we've covered before, is spam posts. Because I mean, I noticed just probably within the last few weeks, there's been a bit of like somebody particulars that's like Ecomobile, buy Ecomobile. Here's my Ecomobile, and it's like it's getting a bit tedious, isn't it? So I suppose I wonder whether we should think about where does the line go between being excited about a product and just being really tedious and filling up your whole inbox with like loads of the same thing that doesn't tell you anything and just puts you off. I personally see when I see that, and if I think that something has been like sponsored by that organization, it would actually put me off. It wouldn't make me more likely to buy the brand. It would just nothing about against Ecomobile as a whole, and they might not be, affiliated with this guy that's been doing it, but it's just really tedious after a certain stage. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
We've seen pretty much all of it over the past 6-7 years, from the early budget board days to the decent budget board days that we're in, and aggressive marketing campaigns for these things, pestering people, going straight after them in the inbox was something that used to happen, and you'd get message after message saying, would you buy this, and here's the link, and here's a discount code and stuff. And it's like, I think, it comes down to a few things. Number one, customer service. Are they actually going to respond to your emails when you have questions, when you want a replacement part? For instance, I was so desperate to get a replacement enclosure for a Yiku board, MTS model, that I had to buy a flipping Tefl storage container to put my battery and my motor controller in. I've literally got a Tupperware box as my skateboard enclosure because the company that should be selling me parts isn't answering the phone. And I gave them plenty of time and nothing back. So it's like, are they boosted? Are they out of business? So number one, customer service, answered their phone, and that builds trust. That builds trust in a brand. when they're ignoring issues like, I don't know, parts that are breaking and not acknowledging that, oh, we messed this up. That's another thing. But yeah, actually, and then like when people give you great suggestions, I want to buy this part from you. Why is there not a product listing on your website to do it? Could be the smallest item, and reference photos that are accurate. For instance, I'm buying these motors, not those motors, is another thing I've noticed. That's one for real.
So if anybody's watching from any of these organizations, if you want to put lots of posts out there, try and spread them out and try and make them of things that are useful, that's going to add a little bit of value or knowledge to the area, rather than just being take, you know.
And the thing is, right, people, it's like you don't have to keep these secrets how you fix something. It's like people will still buy the part from you. Just show them how to install it right. But one thing I've noticed as well, like there's new brands coming in. This is the electric skates, like electric inline skates. Atmosphere, for instance, they're doing a tour of the US to advertise their electric roller skates and getting them into the hands of people that want to try them. And I think that's probably a really healthy thing for any company to do, especially electric skateboards. It's like, okay, rather than just randomly buy it on a website, let's bring it to you on a tour and let's try it out. Because there's plenty of like massive open squares that they could try them in. And I'm sure if they could get the permission, private event and stuff indoors, who knows? I think that's probably a really healthy way of advertising it. Like Boosted, they did so much to advertise their boards, their communities, their just, I know, riders.
Mainstreaming it. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously you've got to watch the prices of a lot of boards these days. Somebody doesn't nick off with it, you know. I mean,
but you're more likely to kind of buy the product if you've actually tried the product, rather than just praying it arrives like I did for 72 days and hoping it works out okay. It's like you can feel the difference between a decent skateboard and a bad skateboard. Lingy ECs have entered the chat.
Well, that's it. Well, I guess I know it sounds like as well that we could probably do with one of those little graph, you know, questionnaires about, you know, for which brand, you know, for each brand, list a bunch of brands and just say how long did you wait for your skateboard from them, you know, and just, you know, have some bandings for it so that we can get a bit of a flavour for who's taken how long. Obviously, we need to do something like saying, like, you know, if somebody ordered their air shipping and then the standard shipping, because
it's like even now we are still feeling the effects of the shipping chaos thanks to Brexit. It used to be free to get these things, then sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's 20 to 40 days. Sometimes it's 30 to 70. It's like those little things I measure and I put in my reviews when I can, and it's just being honest about how long it takes for things to arrive. If you know it's going to arrive at that date, you can obviously, you have to learn patience, as we all do.
But, yeah, and obviously the I mean, as Jan's saying, it puts you off, because if you've got, like, well, being honest, I guess the ideal, you know, our ideal weather window is not is not as wide as some, you know. This is not California, where you're able to ride, you know, like, you know, in lovely weather 90% of the year. So I guess the thing is that certainly if you're trying to buy when a new model ships and then you lose the summer, it does take the shine off it a bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But like, one of the bigger issues is just the acknowledgement that the industry is becoming more affordable. It used to be that you had to buy a £2,000, £1,000 electric skateboard. Now, the ones that are 300 are just as good specs wise. And I think Ecomobile are
not just as good as the £1,000 ones, but they're as good as a lot of the more expensive ones were from years ago.
My point is that obviously there's a huge battery in most of these Baja board style off-road things, but basically it's like they're trying to advertise a really expensive product when there are other ones that are more affordable, and it's like pricing it to be affordable and acknowledging that most people won't drop that money on a skateboard. I think the Meepo next Meepo Monsoon next level racing board with the flipping 3-pin trucks. That's a proper racing skateboard. But it's a lot of money, and it's there's not many people with that skill level to even consider spending that much. I mean, it's the price of a car. Whereas most of us are like, let's just spend less, dip our toes in it, see if we definitely enjoy electric skateboards first, because you have to be a stubborn git to continue with this stuff and all the road vibrations and muscle pains and injuries.
I can highly recommend suspension for that, and I guess pneumatics. Oh, pneumatics. Oh God! I mean, going back when I go between the two boards that I'm using, when I go back to my short board, and on the hydro wheels, even on the hydro wheels, not even on sort of on street wheels. It's if when you get onto rough tarmac, it's amazing how much more brutal it is over any distance.
But my main point is that. That I think is at the core of these really aggressive marketing things. They need to sell the skateboards they're not selling because of their kind of expensive price. And then out of desperation, they harass people more and more and more, and no one's buying it because it's too expensive for what it is.
Yeah, but I guess there is the price versus quality thing. There are a lot of there's because there's so much competition. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in the mid range. That is, it's a decent amount of money, but I don't think there's a massive margin in it because the industry is so cutthroat, and there's so much, pressure to R&D to develop new products and stuff. And if you get it wrong, if you make a mistake, you got to fix that, and so.
But the thing is, I think riders themselves have to soul search with this. How much speed is really enough for you? Because it's like comparing, flipping. Let's say, oh yeah, sure, I do 30 miles an hour on a motorcycle all the time, but have you done that on a skateboard? And then there's all these ones that do 40, 50, and even that one that does 80 miles per hour. And it's like, do you really need all that power for a plank of wood underneath your feet to get around?
Again, I think we're back to the situation you're riding in and the skill level. But yeah, I definitely
people's ambition.
I'm more excited. I'm more excited by range than bonkers speeds. But I also have a modicum of self-preservation. However, not everybody does. Some folk really that adrenaline, and some people can manage to do that very, very successfully. So I think there's room in this for all of us. But yeah, I think we've got to be aware of being led by marketing, and it's similar to motorbikes. Folk, 170, 180, 190 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Actually, most large capacity motorbikes will do like at least 130, and then you think to yourself, so how much more beyond 130 do I actually need? And folk are saying, oh no, but I had to get this one because it was 5 horsepower more, and you think, well, and how much of that's marketing?
It's like, okay, so wonderful, you have this high-powered electric vehicle, but where can you use that power safely? Which is why these kind of Esk8 Las Vegas, Esk8Con events are so interesting, because they've given them an actual racing track to use, which we don't have many indoor or outdoor racing tracks deliberately designed for these vehicles. Even now, they're still trying to figure out how you would use an 80 miles per hour e-scooter in the hyper scooters. It's just that there's a gradual racing progression, but it's like, at what point do the machines become more powerful than the rider? Because it's not
that's a good point.
To really understand the technicals of racing skateboards, let alone the electric ones. All that muscle memory is not easy to pick up.
Yeah, and so Michael's saying it should be developed to reduce costs so more people can afford it. I mean, it would be interesting if an electric skateboard company really took the same approach as a company like Fairphone, where they say, everything is modular, everything is designed to be replaced, easy to access, and not be planned obsolescence and stuff like that.
Indeed, and that's one of the things I've been picking up on recently with the tiny Mini 3 SL and the X-Way Ripple. The white Hall connectors that are usually part of the hub motors with the was it XT30 yellow connectors.
Oh yeah,
Those white hall sensors are getting bigger and the wires are getting bigger, so they only work with more recent ESCs, which means the ones that use the smaller ones, they won't fit. And it's like these converter cables, bullet connectors to XT30s, the yellow ones. It's like Meepo stopped selling those, even though they were the perfect connectors to restart old V2 generation boards. I'm very concerned about the backwards compatibility and the retrofitting of these things, because it's like I want to.
So you need to stock up. You need to start up James's Retro Emporium and stock up as things start coming through at half price. You stock them up, and then you keep the next generation. It's like that film. You remember Robots? The animated one where they stocked the parts to keep the old robots going.
Yeah, it's but like we talk about planned obsolescence, and it kind of feels like it, but at the same time I can understand that obviously the voltages are increasing, the amp
so they need thicker wires to safely do that. But I guess going forward, a bit like, so you've got like the mobile phone industry having to adopt USB-C, for example, to avoid thousands of different charger designs, which was bonkers. You had all sorts. It would be good if where possible, even if we started now, so that in 10 years' time, more of the stuff could be interchangeable.
On another party issue, recycling. We have so many used up skateboard wheels in the world, and where do you send these skateboard wheels when you're done with them? Where do you send these unwanted hub motor sleeves? It's like there's no real recycling point to send them back, because people are desperate for second-hand wheels, but are they all in one place? You know what I mean? That'd be an interesting company.
There we go. There's another cottage industry for you.
Sustainability is a good policy.
It is sustainability, and on that bombshell, I think we should urge people to harass their political parties on the important issues like free parking for us, free drinks for us, and free recharging.
This has been a very good discussion, and I did not expect it to become so detailed and political. I will definitely be putting this on my YouTube channel, Esk8, James.
There we go. That sounds like a plan. All righty, folks. Thanks everybody for joining us. And on a Friday night, enjoy your weekend. See you next time.